to be upon you. A greeting. I wish to give you a greeting from Morocco in the second round of the ISGAP forums about the anti-Semitism. And today we are having with us Dr. Hassan Tigbdar. He is a researcher uh, about the Moroccan margins and the coexistence between Muslims and Jews in the desert. And you know that all the studies that were performed before about the Jews in Morocco, they were focusing about the Jews in the cities, in all the cities of the Muslim societies. Today, Dr. Hassan came back to us and he's going to talk about the situation of Jews in Morocco before traveling or going back to Israel, especially in the rural areas. And here we are focusing on the desert because the Abraham agreements between Israel and Morocco and USA, uh, among the agreement is to admit the admittance of the United States that the desert belongs to Morocco, which is considered as something that raises doubts in the whole region. And today, Mr. Hassan is going to talk to us about the coexistence between Muslim and Jews in the desert, Moroccan desert. And so the doctor is going to start. He has about 25, 30 minutes to talk. And after that, I will give the speech to my colleague, Manal, to comment about the topic of the forum. And then we listen to your Q&A. Thank you so much. Thank you, my colleague, Dr. Shahib Ali, for your kind invitation. I'm very proud to participate in this meeting, which is we are in need today. The world today is in need for the culture of coexistence. The world today is in need for the culture of peace and the acceptance of the others, and to have the culture of accepting differences between people and to live together. And you know that Morocco, as long as it's present successful examples for the world in the field of the peaceful coexistence. When we are talking about the topic of Jews in the world, we can here we have to recall here the great era when the Jews lived between us, because Morocco has a great civilization. And I would like this is a chance to remind you that according to archaeology studies in Europe and Morocco, the 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 first civilized person was discovered was in Sophia in Morocco. And so Morocco is a civilized country since a very long time. And among these aspects of this civilization is a coexistence between the members of society, among them the Jews. And as I said, the studies that has tackled the Moroccan Jews were focusing only or basically on the civilization or civilized areas or urban areas. But the first history of the Jews uh, was in the rural areas and was in the desert. And the leaders of the Jews mostly are coming from the rural areas and from the villages, especially in the north of Africa, and especially if we would like to talk in a more focusing way from the Moroccan villages. The Moroccan desert is a place that has witnessed flourishing and social flourishing and the existence of human being for a long time ago. For example, the area where I live in called the area of Grimin and Wadnoun. It's an area which is well distinguished with the existence of Jews. Some studies is referring that some of the aspects that has been documented returns back to the 10th century before Christ. And this was different places. Among these, the area of Efran, and also Tamanat, and in the neighboring areas, and also some places in Asa and Jermim or Akramim, the center of this Jews. And the Jews here lived at the beginning in the oasis. They were existing in the areas of the oases, and this gave them the experience, a very important experience, especially in the professional or vocational work. Yeah, especially in the experiences of handicrafts. The Jews in the southern of Morocco and in the desert were the first to participate in the fields of agriculture and farming, and also to work in the traditional work or the their existence at the beginning was related linked basically with the farming. So the Jews settled in the places where it was rich with water resources and all the oases that Jews lived in. Is we're having rivers or the water wells, and so the beginning they were working in the farming, but uh, the after Jews left the rural areas uh, and moving to Suera, and when they met other Jews from Britain, from North America, so the role of Jews in the desert exceeded the farming to uh, uh, trade and commercial. And as you know, the area of the Moroccan desert is the gate of Morocco to Africa, and also Morocco is considered as a link between Africa and Europe. So the leaders of the Amazigh and the others who were working in the trade were in need for a new social element in order to facilitate and to develop the trade in the desert. For example, the leader Beirut, he is one of the leaders here in Agramim. He collected his wealth by the local Jews. Why? Because he employed the Jews first to transport the goods, and he and also to transport goods across the desert, and also he employed the Jews as ambassadors to European countries like Netherlands, like Belgium, and Italy, and Britain, and France. So the Jews who were living in the desert, yeah, they were playing a role to link between the local leaders with some pressure groups, lobbies in England and especially in Britain. The local leaders, for example, the leader Beirut, and also and to meet all those leaders, they strengthened their role and the local level and the regional level, depending on the use of the villages. If I, for example, Ifran Sahir, which is considered who is which considered a small example of Jerusalem in this area. The Jews of this area were playing a very important role uh, on the level of receiving some goods like the feather and the wool, uh, and getting some food from products from Africa, because Jews of the desert having a very good experience, and they were also distinguished in negotiation, and they were smart in the field of the trade. This is on the level of linking the desert to Africa and Europe. And the Jews of Afran and Agmimim and Tamam, their sons were the one who established the city of Swira, the commercial city of Swira. Ladies and gentlemen, you should know that most of the Jews in Morocco, and also, as I said, most of the leaders in Canada and in the United States and in UK and inside Israel now, most of them, their origin from Swira. And, and if we do more research, that the origin of the Swira, it's related to the oldest families in Morocco. Half, half of them started in Malak Islam al-Saghir because it's Israeli settlement before Christ was in Ifran Atlas al-Saghir. And to the extent that when we wanted to make some of the leaders, the reason for calling Ifram with this name is returning to the king Efrati, who was the first one to establish a Jewish kingdom in the desert and in North Africa, especially in the Moroccan desert. Thus, what has been found by the Jews in Zuira and their acceptance by the kingdom and support from outside and from Europe and the USA, that has impacted the Jewish leaders in the desert and the competition between the local leaders, other local leaders who work with them. This is on the social and political level. And also I have to refer to some other aspects of coexistence in the desert. Those who are living in the Amazigh area, they were participating, the Jews of Wadnoun, in many of social fields. At the beginning, the Jews of Wadnoun, they were participating, the Muslim and the Amazigh, the Muslim and the Amazigh, they were participating in the Jews festivals, especially in the Saturdays and also in the circumcision ceremonies. It was attended by the Muslim Amazigh in Amazigh Wadnoun. And moreover, the sorrows of Jews of what known because of sickness or death or because of some accidents that they were that may impact both Muslim and Jews. It was participated by the Jews. The Muslims were supporting Jews at that time in their sorrows and their bad moments. In addition to this, the Jews of what known in some areas where there is no security especially on the 18th and the 19th century. The Muslims were the first to protect the Jews groups of Wadnon. And when we talk about Front Saghir, there is a common element between the society there. The same things that the Jews are using, the Muslims are using, they have the same. Jews are participating Muslim in their occasions like Al-Adha feast. So the families of Ifrania, they were receiving congratulations from Jews. Moreover, inside the Franta Nasagir, to the borders, to the time of the 60s, the Jews were invited to the wedding parties and to the food in Efrata al-Saghir. Moreover, in the Jews of Efrata al-Saghir were participating Muslims in their condolences and their sorrows. Uh, and also, if we would like to remember the aspects of the peaceful coexistence between the Jews and the local people, or if there's a participation in preparatives in Rada al-Saghir, there is a common preparatives between Jews and the Jews, the Maziri Jews and Muslim Jews, Maziri Muslims in in the land, or buying together cows, animals, and the sheep. So there was a common proprieties between Muslim and Jews, and it was presenting all kinds of brotherhood between both sides. And if we would like to study the current history, the Jews in the desert played a very important role, even in fighting and combating the colonization, especially in the 1930s. And when there was when France and Spain imposed their uh, dominance on Morocco, the Jews were among those who opposed the occupation of Morocco, and even the military resistance, which which among the areas that has collapsed in the hands of the colonizers was the Ifran Asir. Among these also Wadnoon, and the Jews were participating in the resistance, but in a different way. The Jews were receiving secretly the leaders of the resistance, and they were affording the food and safe haven for those leaders, and they were affording them with donkeys and guns and bullets, which they were getting it from the city of Suera and giving it to the uh, uh, resistance, those who were combating the colonizers. And these are some examples of that we think that the Jews and the Moroccan Jews, their existence and the Moroccan society is not only circumstantial existence, but they are phenomena uh, participating in the living and life of the Moroccan. And when we study the Moroccan Jews, we don't make this study depending on the folkloric side only, or as a tourism, or remembering the past, but we make these studies saying that the Jews were a very important element in the rural areas in Morocco, especially in the desert. And also, we make our studies saying that the living together, coexistence, there was no any differences between racism depending on the religion or the color. There were some incidents that happened to the Jews, but the same incidents was happening to the local inhabitants of these areas. The persecution of Jews in the rural areas, it is the same persecution that the Muslims suffered at the same time in the 17th century when the Jews of Fral al-Atlas to the genocide. And this genocide, the local inhabitants were defending them, and this has also impacted the localizers who were defending the Jews. Among them, people were burned, and among them, people were tortured because they were defending the Jews. But when they were doing this, they were defending their brothers who were uh, um, considered as half of the society, and also the Jews of the desert were able to work in the palaces and in the there were some families like the families of Rahim. These families, they were not only working in the field of trade only, but they had a political weight. The Sultan of Morocco, they were depending on the Jews of the south. And even at the time of the immigration, when they established Israel, they were focusing on the Moroccan Jews, those who were living in the rural areas, because Israel at that time, they were in need to Jews who were able to work in farms and and also the traditional industries. They were in need for the Jews who were able to accustom themselves to the new conditions. Those who are living in the desert, who were able to live in all the weather circumstances. And I saw many letters from those who established Israel to the agencies that were transporting Jews from Morocco, that they should focus on the Jews of Atlas Saghir and on those who are living in the desert. And if we focus on the Israeli agriculture, we find that the area of Ashdod in southern Israel, which is considered a very good example for the world now, the origin was linked to the Moroccan Jews who were living in the Wadi Noum and to the areas of Tata, to the depths of Moroccan desert. So the Moroccan Jews, when they went to Israel, considered formed a very strong push to the Israel, not only in Israel, and even the Jews who prefer to immigrate to other countries to the north of America and to the United States and Canada, they were able to establish very important companies with a very strong assets in the field of agriculture, and their origin was from Tefrau, and the use of Tafrar and Wadnoon in general. And thus, I think the age or the era when the Jews were in the desert of Wadi Nun, we can call it the golden age. And everyone is wishing to have the same age today. The city of Agmim, there are some still some expression from Jews, and especially in the Hassani dialect, and also the building and construction. We hope that you're finishing within 3 minutes. As I say, the Wadnoon, when we are in Wadnoon, we didn't feel have the feeling that this Jews or this is a Muslim. Everyone was believing that the important role of Jews in Wadnoon, and even the market, which is considered the market of Mhirij is considered, yeah, and the capital of this market was from the Jews of Wadnoon, and this market was established at the beginning with a fortune of a Jewish fortune, especially from the Jews of Al-Mutali, those Jews who were pioneer in the field of trade. If we, I say today, everyone is in need for this kind and this example of coexistence between the two sides. The people of the desert say, we didn't imagine that there would be a life with daily life without shoes. And moreover, one of the old leaders that we wake up in the morning and we found Agmimim had no Jews to the extent we didn't find anyone who make shoes for us or make a dress for us or or um, work in the fields or lending us money. And if we focus on this, find these five aspects was showing how strange the relationship between Muslim and Jews, and even the leadership which has collapsed because the Jews collapsed because the Jews who were supporting them have already left. But as I said at the beginning, we cannot talk about the Jews of the world without talking about the Jews of Morocco, because they live in the palaces, close from the leaders from the sultanate, from the king. They lived in the desert, lived in the cities. They were a very important element of Morocco, and Morocco was in a reconciliation with itself and with the Jews and all the when we talk about Morocco, about the elements, and we have also the constitution saying, talking about that the resources of this country is depending on the Hebrew and for Amazigh, and the Moroccan. Morocco is proud of the Jews, wherever they are in the world, because we had history of living together in peace and in safety. Of course, the incidents happening, but as they say, they are individual incidents, but not related, intending to target the certain group of the society. They were living in the desert, uh, and they were settling in the desert and played a very important role in building the Moroccan state even after the independence, and they played a very important role in building yeah, the modern Morocco, and they were participating in the political parties. And it's a moment to remember our friend Molivi, C. Molivi, who refused the French colonization, and he was arrested because he was defending the independence of Morocco and the unity of its land. So, my friend, I forgot to introduce you and to the brothers and sisters who are attending at this moment to congratulate you because of the new Amazigh year in which the Moroccan Jews were part of the memory of this year by their participation, their carnivals, and when they were offering food in these celebrations. And thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Hassan Tigbdar, for this lecture. Uh, And this wonderful image that you conveyed to us about the coexistence between Jews and the Muslim in the desert. I think this may uh, uh, now I leave the speech now. Manal, and she's coming from Tunisia, and she's coming from a state where the Jews were living also there. Um, and to comment on your lecture. Uh, so you have 5 minutes, I think. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim and Dr. Hassan. It was the lecture was very good, and your participation included all the historical elements and Richard, yeah, the history of Jews in Morocco, and as has been mentioned by our colleague Ibrahim, also in Tunisia, Jews who were living in Jerba, it seemed like the desert in Morocco. There's a peaceful living in between Jews and Muslim. But today, as we are talking about the history of the Jews in the Moroccan desert. I had the honor to be to attend a conference about the peaceful coexistence between Muslim and Jews, and also Dr. Asma Shabi. She is the governor of El Sawira city. She was a spokeswoman, and she talked about the positive experience of Al Suwaira city, and especially the area of Beit El Zikra, which is a very good example between for the peaceful living between Muslim and Jews. And this experience was a positive one because it's coming from the depth of communication between the Jews and Muslim in Morocco, and also it represents this peaceful coexistence, which is a very good example for peaceful living in the Islamic and Arab world, and also because for the Jewish people who are living in they are existing strongly. I mean, the Moroccan Jews, and they are honored with it's a great history of Morocco, and this is a great honor for the Moroccan for this those people are living and participating in social society, and they are representing their sincerity to Morocco. And to give you just some examples about this coexistence, the Muslim and Jews were living together in Suira in atmosphere of respect, and those societies they established a strong relationship, and this has established the character of the city. The number of Jews you can say that the number was not less than 12,000 people. And for sorry, Morocco, like the other country, for sorry, the most unfortunately, also Morocco witnessed the immigration of Jews, and but we still have some Jews living in Suira, and there are some traditions showing the depth of relationship between the Moroccan Jews and Muslim Jews, and the Moroccan and the Moroccan Muslims and the Moroccan Jews, and and this has represented the history of Morocco, and they are visiting the cultural events to celebrate together about this history. I have many friends. I'm very proud about their friendship. They are from originally from the Moroccan Jews from El Suwaira, and usually they are proud to belong to El Suwaira, and they are proud of this coexistence between Muslim and Jews. And this city, which is the heart of the Jews in for Jews in Morocco, they have they cooperated with Beit Zakira, which is considered as a very important initiative to show the coexistence between Muslim and Jews. And there's a synagogue for prayers, and there is a place for worship, and which is showing a good example for the existence of Jews in Suira, and at the time being considered as very important location for the whole region, make it as a very good symbol for the memory, and it deserves to make propaganda for it. And the history of Suira is considered as very important a time of the Moroccan history and representing a good example of coexistence between Muslim and Jews in spite of all turmoil in the region. And also, I'd like to remind you that this is the International Day of the Holocaust, and we remember that 6 million Jews were killed and tortured well, by Nazis, and how they were the Jews and were protected by the Moroccan uh, and by the King Hassan II. He protected the Moroccan Jews in spite of the oppression that he had by Nazis. I'd like to thank all the spokesmen, especially Dr. Ibrahim, Professor Ibrahim, for this invitation. Thank you. Now I give a chance to researchers and to the attendant if they have any questions or any comment to say. So they are welcome to participate. We are waiting. Any questions? I would like to ask Mr. Hassan Tigbdar. You gave us a very good description for the coexistence between the. I would like to ask him a question. This relationship in a certain time for any kind of when you talked about Kite Beirut and with me, I read that in of me that Jews were not allowed if they want uh, to move between the city and the Sueza, they were not allowed to take their families with them to Sueza or any other city, and they were paying money because in order to keep their families till they go back to Dortmund. Also, I read in a book in, that they found difficulty to build a synagogue because there were many legal advisories banning building a new synagogues in the cities of Muslims. And there was a death for any Jews in Iran. They were asked to move from Italy to Iran a long distance on using um, dunks and this stuff to bury those people and celebrate their regional and their religion festivals. And until they were allowed to build a synagogue and a cemetery. So can you shed the light on this? Uh, um, it's clear, my colleague, that the Jews in Morocco, as I said at the beginning, he lived a golden era. But there were some incidents and some varieties. When there is a variety or a change in the society, these are impacting the Jews for at the beginning. I give you an example, please. Before the Holocaust of Hitler, there was a Holocaust in Franta al-Saghir for a person who was revolting against the rebellion against the Sultan, the one who led the revolt from the he was killing the religion men of Muslims. And when he arrived to Franta al-Saghir, he burned some of the Jews, local Jews. But before that, he burned a Muslim. And in this Holocaust, Ashkenazi talked about this when he talked about a child from Efrant al-Saghir. There's a study which is being, they are teaching in Israel now. Also, there are times in history when there were some extreme extremism from some some leaders, they ordered and issued some legal advisories to ban the synagogues for Jews. Sometimes there is the also the locals. Sometimes they're preventing some Jews from giving them land to bury their that passed away people or that people because there was no enough lands for them because they were not able to buy lands to bury their that people and also banning some of the Jewish families from leaving the city of Suira as Professor Manal talked. It was there was flourishing in the Suira, in which this area was gravitating all Jews from the areas surrounding areas. And so all the Jews wanted to move. Not everyone had the same ideas, but many Jews wanted to move to Suira to boost their trade, but they were not after that they then allowed to take their families because because they wanted to keep them in the desert on the leaders of the local society, but depending on the role of the Jews and diplomatic role which they were playing in Morocco and with outside countries or neighboring countries. Sometimes there are some incidents of targeting Jews reaching the level beating and injuring. And also a crime happened on the 19th century when one of the local traders killed a Jew. And the local people went and punished this person, and because consider this destabilizing their living, and they consider killing of a Jew it consider the same equal to the killing of a Muslim. So there are incidents, painful incidents happen to the Jews, but the reasons not related to the religion. It could be a conflict about authority, about trade, about money, conflict about the trade routes, commercial routes. They are something. These conflicts was depending on the social issues, but for the religion disputes, the local leaders intervene in this moment and say that the Jews are having their rights as the same as Muslim inside the Moroccan community. And in Morocco, we have people who are in infidel, and but there's a guaranteed rights for each group in the society. But between time and the other, there are some violations and some problems and some obstacles and some crimes. But they to be counted on the tips of finger, the tips of one hand. And so the Muslims were usually stand for the Jews, their daily lives in Morocco. If there's anyone wants to participate with that question. Yeah, another question, Mr. Had. نحن we are talking about the rural areas usually. When I talk about Omar Boom, yes, and and I took this study. It depended studied 4 generations of the Moroccan Jews, and it was noticed what is being remembered by Muslim is different from one generation to another. He notes that the our generation they didn't talk about the Jews in a good way, but the fathers they are talking about is relying on the stories that they received or got from their fathers. Then we started to rely more about what happened, what we are receiving from news agencies, which is more considered as anti-Semitic from more than the first generations. And recently a young man from received a green card and moved to United States. After that, uh, he went from United States to Israel to to uh, to uh, to to participate and to do an operation in Israel to kill some Israel or to attack Israelis. For sorry, unfortunately, these are individual incidents, and unfortunately, the opening of the youth and society and the frame work of globalization. There are some speeches to uh, uh, increase extremism and and the Islamic extremism. These speeches spreading wrong information and bad ideology. This terrorist speech that they are collecting from the internet is not affecting only the Jews, but also the Muslims themselves. If we see what's happening and bloodshed, we we will see that the anti-Semitic speech has started to increase in the conflict in the Middle East is affecting the ideology of the youth. But in Morocco, I think this young man was he received uh, something as incentive from outside Morocco. In Morocco, on the level of the family or the school or the media, everyone is aiming or tending to live in peace and in peace between all mankind, regardless of the religion belief. And also the Moroccan, even in the apparent conflict, they have a different stand, different from not different from the other Muslim societies, uh, because they should uh, in Morocco. Most of the Moroccans today are aiming to have peace in the Middle East and coexistence. The Moroccan are supporting the idea of having two states, Israel and Palestine. And, and even on the level of yesterday, Sidi Abdurrahim, maybe you have seen a video for the Jews at the University of Filipina. They were dancing with their religion dress in the middle of the city of Marrakesh at the time of war in the Middle East. This is a message the Moroccan would like to spread, say that we are living in peace. This message of peace and love. And the king, uh, in his diplomatic trend, is saying that to solve the conflict in the Middle East, there must be acceptance and diplomatic, depending on having having two states, two Muslim, Palestinian, and Israeli states, respecting respecting the two sides and the sacred places of the two sides, by the language of extremism and supporting the tourism is spreading not only on the social media or X and Instagram and TikTok, and that everyone has to be aware and to especially in the school and the family, and also the police and this. And we saw yesterday that the Moroccan police were able to uh, stop a terrorist attack in Murshid for Moroccan who has extremism. Maybe they were intending to target the the interests, Moroccan interests inside Morocco. And that means that Morocco is not going to tolerate on any level in educational or security or diplomatic with any language against anti-Semitism, because Morocco they have signed it on the international agreement, and also we are respecting the peaceful coexistence. I have a comment about what has been mentioned by Mr. Hassan, and your question is very important. Yeah, as expert about education in Belgium, and they have relationship with youth and young men here from the Moroccan countries, and there are young men who are not affected by the ideological speech brother of the Muslim Brotherhood, but there are some people who are affected by this. And as Dr. Hassan said, in Morocco, there are some methodologies which is encourage the youth and young men to, to be anti-Semitic. But here in Europe, there is no meeting to encourage or to raise the awareness of the young men. Among the achievements for the Jewish Museum in Belgium, 2 years ago, and before 2 years ago, there was a presentation for what's called L'Autre C'est Moi, and that was representing the history of youth and Muslim in Morocco. And there were many young men who have visited this gallery, and they discovered that their origin, that there was a coexistence between Muslim and Jews in Morocco. And this was very positive and has a very positive effect. So here we can have the role of education and culture to uh, deny the hatred speeches. And that's why we have to work continuously through the education and holding meetings for those people to teach them. And as Mr. Ibrahim said, that the previous generation had a strong history, a great history of coexistence, and there was no hatred in the speech of anti-Semitism. But unfortunately, with these speeches and ideological speeches uh, uh, and the speech of extremism, uh, those young men became a prey of these language, of this language, and and what has been played by the media and like Al Jazeera and others, yeah, to play and form the ideas of the youth. But the education and the history and what's called in French the work of the memory, everything what we are doing to think about what is anti-Semitism and to remind about the speech and to denounce the hatred in Morocco and the Morocco, Algeria and Tunisia, show how there was coexisting between Muslim and Jews. This will raise the awareness of the new generation to adopt peace and coexistence, and that we can live together and respecting the culture of the others. Thank you. My colleague, I would like to comment what has been said by Mrs. Manad today at the level of elementary schools. There are some texts. There are we here in Morocco, we admit the existence of Jews here and about their existence here in our education. It's depending on the Moroccan constitution. Thank you, Dr. Hassan Tigbdar. Now it is the end of our meeting. Thank you for Mr. Hassan Tigbdar for this topic, wonderful topic. Now we come to the end of this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Hassan Tigbdar and my colleague Manal for her comments, and thank you so much, all participants, for attending today and their participation in this meeting. I thank my my colleague Daniel and my other colleague for their patience and for coordination for this meeting. I would like to assert you that this meeting are going to continue, and on the 10th day of February, we'll move from Morocco to Lebanon, and we'll be hosting our colleague Mariam Adou and she is a Lebanese journalist, and she's going to talk to us about the Hezbollah and his agenda against which is anti-Semitism in the Middle East. And we have another meeting on the 10th of February. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. Have a good rest of the day.